Good morning, it's Dan and Lee in our Sunday class on Bible economics. This is the great parentheses in our Life of Christ in Stereo series in our Sunday class. The reason is because it's very important to know who the Creator is and His system of economics. So here we go, our Sunday class. Good morning, Miss Lee.
Good morning.
Lots of stuff going on there, wasn't there? I got too many buttons I can play with.
Yeah.
I have too much fun pushing the buttons. Well, we are at a point in history in which evolutionary Darwinism is pretty much in control of the sciences. People get fired from jobs because they discover things that don't fit. We have situations where soldiers are fired from being colonels in the Air Force because they don't believe that sex can evolve from male and female to
something else,
whatever they feel like. You know, it's all evolutionary stuff.
Yeah.
And this is why we're taking time. But the reason what we're focusing on here is the idea of the Bible gives us an economic framework to work on. And economics is really not just the study of money. That's what people think it is. It's actually the study of resources and how they're used. And Genesis chapter 1, I think, is a key concept in us understanding the economics of the real world. Now, the real world is that we shouldn't be greedy, and we also shouldn't allow everybody to own everything, because then because men are greedy on both sides. So the Christian view is different, and that's what we're here to talk about today. Now, we're up to Genesis chapter 1, verse...
I was going to say we aren't up too far. Verses 14 through 19
Okay,
today.
so, and it's what day is it?
Today?
No,
In real
what
life?
day are we studying?
Oh, we're going to be talking about what God did on the fourth day.
We're studying Genesis.
I didn't know if you meant the day today.
Oh, I know what day it is. This is Thursday, right?
I know. No. I almost said yes.
You don't know what day it is, but I know what day it is. Okay,
Yes.
we're in the fourth day, and this is a very important day.
Let's put it this way. The third day has just ended.
The third day has ended. That's right. Now we're up to the fourth day. And this is real important because it has so much to do with the great, I call it the great delusion among Christians, the great compromise, where they try to mix evolutionary thinking with six-day creation. Suddenly I've got a cough. I'm sorry. Go ahead.
Stick a cough
No,
drop
go
in your
ahead.
mouth.
Go ahead.
Well, it's where Christians try to say, okay, well, God says in here that it's evening and morning a day, but it could have actually been thousands of years.
Well, the days they use a verse in the New Testament to the Lord, a day is as 1,000 years,
yeah.
And that they say, therefore, a day is as 1,000 years. That's just and what's absurd about this is that this day, if a day is 1,000 years or 1,000,000 years or 1,000,000,000 years, I mean 1,000 years is out the window now because you got to have billions and billions of years.
Yeah, for
because
evolution to be
the magic of evolutionary thinking is billions.
Yeah.
You know, because you can't see it. There is no evidence.
Yeah.
There's no facts. It's not science. So you imagine these billions of years made these changes.
There's no spontaneous combustion.
No generation.
Combustion either. I think it was the same thing, but
no,
generation.
It's totally opposite.
Nothing that comes together out of nothing.
That's right.
You don't just go poof.
Spontaneous combustion when it goes apart out of nothing.
Oh, there we go. Science is not my forte.
Okay. So,
but here's the thing I do see. Reading the Bible, this thing of evolutionary, what is it called? Theistic evolution.
Yeah.
You know what? God wrote the Bible to me and you. I'm not an intellectual, I'm not a philosopher, I'm not a scientist. But I can read this and God wants me to understand it.
But he also wrote it to the guy that knows science.
Oh, yes, he did. Yeah.
And see, that's where that gets used, I think, very badly. Well, I'm just stupid. I'm just a dumb old guy. But I can understand. Well, that's true, but it is profound as well.
It is profound. And actually, I remember being young Christians and meeting a scientist that's one of the brainy kind of scientists, and he showed us somewhere in the Bible where it talks about the atom.
Yeah.
And so this was on the high levels of intelligence.
He saw that within the words, but here
it's for everyone, is what I'm trying to say.
This is why I don't want to get too far off into the argument in the scientists, because I think that's a diversion. The theistic evolutionists are diverting us, but I'm going to answer it. We're going to talk about it a little bit today. But the purpose of Genesis 1 is to show us who God is. Now, I don't just make that up. In Genesis 1:28 it says we're created in His image, okay? And we're to be fruitful, and in the same verse it says we're to be fruitful, multiply, fill, rule, and subdue. So His image is a ruling God who is fruitful, who subdues, who rules, and creates, okay? He imagines and creates. That's who God is.
He doesn't just imagine and imagine.
Yeah. Now
he imagines. He thinks of things and then he makes them.
Yeah. And we don't know what he imagines and imagines because
no.
he's so. But anyway, in Romans 1:28, it really tells us what creation is made for. Therefore, Genesis chapter 1 has this purpose. It says, "For since the creation of the world, His invisible attributes." What are invisible attributes?
Well, everything that we can't see.
That's right.
Or we don't know about.
His all-power, His all-knowing, His all-presence.
We can't see that.
But it's also His... And see, everybody focuses on all-power, all-knowing, and all-presence, and that's true. But it's also invisible that He wants us to be fruitful, that He wants us to rule over things. See, those are invisible things. They're not chemistry. They're not physics.
Yeah.
They're moral principles. They're economic principles. And His invisible attributes, His eternal power, His divine, and it names these three, His eternal power, His divine nature, have been clearly seen, being understood by what is made. What is made? Creation. And see, so that we are without excuse. So we can be without excuse on these issues if we say we just didn't know. Lee's being distracted, and if something interrupts her, she gets very distracted. So a phone call just came in and she got distracted, so I'm trying to get her back to me.
I can't. I have to end this phone call.
No, you don't. It'll just go away. But if you get distracted, we can't do the show.
Yep, I'm here. I'm with you.
Okay.
I'm with you.
So these invisible attributes are what you can't see.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but there's a lot of things we can't see. When we flip on the electricity, we can't see the electricity. It just powers the lights.
Right.
We can't see the wind.
But we believe it's going to work.
Yeah, but we can't see the wind. Actually, the Bible's best illustration is not electricity, it's the wind.
Mm-hmm.
We can't see the wind, but we can feel it. Mm-hmm. And we can see that it lifts airplanes high into the air. And that's an invisible thing called the laws of nature.
And like today, we can see that it blows all the leaves in the front door.
And it blows all the leaves in the front door. That's right. So here we see clearly that God is showing us His invisible attributes of all power, all presence, all knowing, and we see this on this day particularly. This is not a minor day of creation. This is one of the biggies. So let's read.
Okay, so we're starting Genesis 1:14 through 19 today. Then God said, "Let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night, and let them be for signs and for seasons and for days and years. And let them be for lights in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth." And it was so. God made the two Want me to keep going?
Yeah.
God made the two great lights, the greater light to govern the day, and the lesser light to govern the night. He made the stars also. God placed them in the expanse of the heavens to give light on the earth, and to govern the day and the night, and to separate the light from the darkness. And God saw that it was good. There was evening and there was morning, a fourth day.
Now, I let you read the whole thing because it is kind of confusing when you think Genesis verses 1:1 talked about God making the light, okay?
Yeah.
But now he's making the
Different
light.
kind of light.
No, it's actually, what version are you reading from?
New American Standard.
Okay. It's the light bearers. It's the thing that bears the light. And what we have is the situation is where the light the light was existing. It was light and darkness, but there was no sun, moon, and stars.
Right. And to me,
And that's what this reveals.
This is like the stars, because you don't see the stars in the daytime. Usually, every now and then, you'll see a very bright star at night, at dusk, but you don't see the stars in the daytime, and they're for the days and years, and they says.
I don't have any idea what you're talking about.
Okay, let there be lights in the expanse of the heavens to separate the day from the night.
Okay.
Is this something different than the sun? This is the stars too, right? That you see at night.
Well, it says in the verse it's talking about sun, moon, and stars.
Yeah.
Okay. And they're for signs, for seasons, for days, and for years. But they're not made until the fourth day.
Right.
But the
light
was already there.
Yeah.
So this creates total problems for naturalistic evolutionary thinking.
Why is that?
It means that there either has to be an all-powerful God who had light existing and then created light bearers, or nature has to do this, but nature can't have lights before, or it means the Bible's not true.
Okay, well, and here too, on the third day, he made the vegetation and the trees with fruit on them.
Yeah.
They need sun to grow.
Oh, yeah.
But there's no sun until the fourth day.
Yeah.
So
now, if this is billions of years, well, this is one of the reasons why theistic evolution becomes so absurd.
Didn't they die already?
Because theistic evolution takes and tries to mold all this in, and it confuses people, and that's why I don't even like to go there very often. And I'm going to recommend a book that you can read that is available, a brand new book, and it's a real expensive book. And I'm going to post a video that is on this blog with this, and the book is called Theistic Evolution, A Scientific, Philosophical, and Theological Critique. And it's really well done, but it's very expensive. So just watch the video. I think it gives you enough stuff. It's $60 for the book. But I know the people that are writing it, and I know who they are, and it's very theologically accurate. But the issue here for economics is God is building a system that is going to allow this person he's going to make, Adam and Eve, this one, it's like human.
Mankind.
Yeah. He's making them to show who he is. Now, and who he is a God who is fruitful, who multiplies, who fills, who rules and subdues. So that's why this day is also showing he is bigger than the whole cosmos. He is bigger than the sun, moon, and stars. He is more powerful. And he designed this to work not for the purpose that is evolutionary, which evolution has no purpose. That's one of the big things about evolution. It's purposeless. It just is. And see, but I think the key with evolution is it's not purposeless. Its purpose is to get you to doubt the Bible,
right?
The God of the Bible and who he is and how he is all powerful. So this is all I'm going to spend on theistic evolution because it is such a stupid idea to tie. And actually, the Bible condemns it as spiritual adultery. It's mixing naturalism that there is no God, that everything is self-sustaining from itself. In other words, matter had to come into existence through nothing, and biological mechanisms had to come from dead matter, which is against the laws of nature. First and second laws of thermodynamics, and first law of biogenesis. So this is all I'm going to spend on this, because my purpose here is to show that God had a purpose in revealing Genesis 1 to show us how the world should work.
So
and economics has to do with that.
I have a question here about this. Because it says he let them be for signs and for seasons, for days and years. I understand that, but what are the signs? What does that mean? Because a lot of people get hung up in the stars are doing this and they're doing that.
Astrology.
And this means this.
And that's kind of like theistic evolution. I don't really want to spend a lot of time on it.
But I thought you should address that.
There's a good book by Henry Morris that deals with before the flood, how you could see the gospel in the stars.
Okay.
And after the flood, there was a whole changing of that, and you can't see it anymore. But it's kind of still there. And I don't want to go into details because it gets us off our track. Our track we're wanting to show here today and in this series is God's economic structure and how he wants us to live within his system, not in survival of the fittest.
I think it's interesting when you look at this, he made the great lights for the day and the night. Well, first of all, I'm thinking, we can't in our minds even pretend to imagine how big the sun is. But God
you can
it.
pretend to imagine.
Well, yeah, but I can't. I mean, it's big. I can see down the block.
Well, we're pretty far away from it.
But I can't figure out how big.
We did an article on the sun back 40 years ago, that the sun is shrinking by 5 foot per hour. It makes sense. It's burning up.
Yeah, well,
it's not
heat.
a perpetual
motion
machine.
Right.
Just doesn't keep burning and burning and burning. I mean, that's one of the evolutionary stupids. And at the rate, if it's been happening for billions and billions and billions of years,
it wouldn't be there anymore.
No, the Earth would not be here.
Oh, the Earth.
It would have been, because it would have been bigger in the past. As it's burning up, it's shrinking. Okay. We know it's shrinking. The evolutionary answer, it's just oscillating. We see it shrinking now, but it does move back and forth. But it's constantly shrinking.
Okay.
And we've been measuring that since the 1800s, 1820 or something. So again, you were getting off the track. I don't want to go here.
Okay.
I want to
ask you a question. Then I hope this doesn't throw you. How does God creating the sun, the moon, and stars? What's that got to do with economics?
Oh, it has everything to do with economics.
Tell me.
Because it has to do with, we're going to study that when we get to the last day of creation, that he rests on the seventh day.
Oh, so you mean that there's daytime to work and nighttime?
You don't have to have electricity to get your work done.
That's true, because people didn't used to have electricity for a lot of years.
So you go out and work in the daytime, and you rest and sleep and talk and fellowship and eat and do most of your other stuff in the evening.
Actually, there's an interesting thing that I've read about how when people, didn't have alarm clocks and they didn't have electricity, they would go to sleep pretty early. And then oftentimes they'd wake up like, a few hours later. And they'd work for 2 or 3 hours, and then they'd go back to sleep again, and it was like a real, like we all think, oh, I wake up in the middle of the night, it's terrible. People used to do that all the time.
I do it every night almost.
I know you do.
Lee thinks I'm making too much noise.
Yeah, because that's when I'm sleeping. But anyway, that's, there's a reason that God made day and night.
Yeah,
and
there's lots of reasons.
Be more productive.
Also, if you look at the plants, and this is very important, plants have to rest.
And some of them actually, the flowers close up at night.
Yeah, but I mean, they have to rest. If you had lights on plants all the time, it stresses them out.
Yeah.
So they're designed to work within a system of daylight and dark. And that's where in Alaska, when the sunlight is out for like almost 24 hours, plants grow really big.
Yeah.
Because they don't rest. They just grow. Because plants only grow when the sun's hitting them. And then they rest.
And then they have a short time to grow.
And this is a little tip that helps you here with tomatoes, is if you'll pick your tomatoes in the afternoon as opposed to the morning, you get 30% more taste. Now, why is that? Because the sunlight causes the tomatoes the plant to send the juices, the sugars, which just causes the growth, into the tomato during the day. And about 4 to 7 o'clock, the sun's about to quit working, and if you pick it, it traps the most. This is why now they've learned this, and if you go to your grocery store, what do you see in the grocery store? Just tomatoes with no vine?
They're on the vine, yeah.
A lot of them are on the
That's a
vine.
big seller now.
That's right.
They pick the whole vine.
Yeah, and the reason for that, because that keeps that sugar so it can keep going into that tomato and makes them taste better.
Right.
So these are little things that we learn, that God has made the plants, the animals, everything to work in certain ways. And the purpose of Genesis is to tell us how to live in this world and not destroy other people, but actually supply our own needs. And this day is really, I think, the big day that destroys theistic evolution.
It has to just logically, when you think the plants are already there, and now comes the sun. Okay, well, how did
Now here's another thing we're going to talk about the next day. Where are the bees?
To pollinate.
Yeah. When are they created?
I don't know. Do they
The
come
next
the
day.
next day?
Yeah, the next day.
On the 5th day?
So if these are billions of years,
Well, even if things just developed, they would have died right away because there was
no sun.
No sun and nothing to pollinate.
Yeah, a few days.
Gone. Boom.
Yeah. Couldn't have. And see, it tells us that yet on the last day it said he made the plants and the seed was in it. That's the little manufacturing plant.
Mm-hmm.
And again, that's the plant is designed to be fruitful, multiply, and fill. They'll just keep filling and keep filling and keep filling, but they don't rule and subdue. Mm-hmm. And that's the difference between man and the animals. Mm-hmm. So anyway, this is, I think, have we finished reading?
And we are finished reading.
And I'm going to post this video with our video that on the blog, and it's at theroddenreporter.com. And it's on roddenreporter.com, and that's all I need, Miss Lee. She's got distracted again. I can't even get her attention. And everything there that we deal with is on roddenreporter.com now, so you can get to our bios, you can get to if you want to gift us, so you can get to all the things we do. Just click on that. I've been working on that for about 6 months. Lee didn't know I'd been doing that over this week. So, and you can you can listen to this, but there'll also be this thing on theistic evolution that will really help you. And if you really want to delve into this, I think it's worth that $60 book.
If you have questions that can't be answered.
Yeah, and that's not my purpose here. Our purpose is to show that God has set up an economic system that is, He owns the earth. He gave it to Adam. Who stole it from Adam?
Some guy with a tail and horns.
Well, it was actually a serpent. But the devil. The devil stole it. And then God didn't just go, oh, I take it back. No, He purchased it back by sending His Son, and He paid with His blood. As Jesus said, it is paid in full, telestai. It is finished. That's what the word means. And now it says we've been bought with a price. We're not our own. That is economics. And it says He's our certificate of debt. The whole gospel is in economic terms. And for some reason, Christians just ignore that. And I think it has to do with this secular evolutionary thinking that has gotten into American culture.
It gets into things and you don't even realize it.
So anyway, man, this has been a hard show to do.
Lots of distractions.
Diversions. I think is probably important and a good one. So, Miss Lee, is there anything else we need to say today?
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Have a good week.
This has been Dan and Lee and the Bible Economics as part of our Sunday class, Life of Christ in Stereo. Miss Lee, it's been fun. Class is over.